podcast. Now, I know we're not live, and no, there will be no magical Harry Potter discussion. And I know we didn't have a live draw show for the French Open, but the French was showing their ass, and we decided in protest, you not being all right, we not giving you the shine by giving you a whole draw show because you know what? We want this whole draw thrown out and burned, like burn the French down. It's time for the French Open to be in Cincinnati. I'm just saying, I'm here for that. I'm going to send out a petition next week and a GoFundMe because, you know, that's how we scamming these days in a panini. But before I go any further, let me introduce my co-hostesses with the mostesses. We have Andrine from Solely Tennis Travel, and you are not home, and we love
No,
that for
I'm
you.
not home. And I'm frankly resentful of the French that I even have to stop my little mini vacation to have this conversation.
I mean, you know how the French do it, right? I mean, like, this is
I
so
mean, the
French.
French is really working overtime, even though nobody cares because it's not even on ESPN. Let me just say that.
I know, right? Like,
Oh man. Whew, she
like how
took
you
it
gonna
there.
have a slam and I have to stream it? Like, how am I stealing a slam? You understand what I'm saying? Like,
That
the
just tells you
Australians
about the
don't do
ratings.
this. Listen to me. I could watch every doubles match, every mix, every boy girls the match on my TV. I don't have to fire up my computer unless I want to be inquisitive and look through all the tweets instead of on my phone. Now the French Open decided they're gonna do it, and I have to give Sinclair my money and watch Tennis Channel Plus now. We ain't doing that. Nope, nope. I'm gonna stream the French in protest. Okay, and if I can't watch it, I just can't watch it, and I know my faves won't be winning it, so don't care. But let me move on. So you're having a good time until
I am. I'm having a great time.
Well, that's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Wandering the streets and eating. That's the best thing to do in Mexico City.
You know, I
Nice.
have not eat since it's panini. I haven't eaten in the streets. I cannot eat because I'm wearing a mask, and I'm just like I'm losing weight this way. That's what I'm thinking. I pass all these
Oh
delicious
Lord.
food, cake. I'm like, I can't eat.
Panini. Yes, a panini weight loss.
But I'll let you know that New York City is back because people are back eating on the train, eating full meals. So
Oh God.
It's still
Listen, that was
indoors.
gross before.
we're
Mm.
good. We're good. Okay, New
Mm.
York City is back, and we
Okay.
have Janina from Far in Ohio. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Sitting outside enjoying the nice holiday weather.
Oh yeah, it is Memorial Day.
It's 50 degrees, so it's cold.
Not 50 degrees here.
I am literally wearing a hoodie. Okay,
No,
I'm wearing a hoodie, and
I'm
it's
in the
gonna be June
sunshine.
tomorrow morning. It's gonna be June tomorrow, and I'm wearing a hoodie.
I'm
So
in the sunshine pretending like I'm in Mexico with Andrine.
we're gonna get you. You know, like see if your foreign Ohio passport can get you out of that state, girl. Like
Okay.
we
Exactly.
can do something. And of course, you have, you know, Reels here, the homosexual of the podcast. So, ladies, we can't even get into the discussion of how magnificent and wonderful Roger Federer was today.
I
Look,
heard.
I
I
mean,
heard.
Federer was crisp and clean. I mean, none of that sloppy mess he did in Geneva, as he would say, or when he wherever the hell he was before that. Did he play Madrid? No, I don't think he'd be trying to go high
Mm-mm.
altitude. Wherever he was, did he play Rome?
No.
What kind
No.
of what kind of play preparation Federer did? Like he did the backyard classic.
Yep.
I mean, we can't
No.
even get into
Yeah.
we can't even get into the fact that no, they finally won a backyard classic at Belgrade. Like they finally aligned the draw and fix it out. No surprise, no one trying to feel themselves today. He finally won Belgrade, and there was no press there to
I
celebrate it.
mean, really, who cares? I mean, I too can put on a tournament that I win. Let's move.
I mean, can we do that? Because I know there will be drinks available, and I'm just Janine and I are here for the drinks. We will be
Yeah.
there
I
cheering you on the stand. I mean,
I appreciate Nole though. I appreciate that. I saw a very long statement come across my timeline about tournaments put on by people who are still active players, and I simply enjoyed seeing Nole be in the center of something that he's accused his rival of for years. So bless his
I
heart.
mean,
Oh, okay,
we can't
focus. That's
even
not why we're here.
exactly. We can't get into any of this. You know what I mean? But We
We
have
got to come out here and defend.
yeah, and I mean, like, and a side note, no disrespect, but I just gonna random thought. I can't tell the difference between Iga Swiatek and Caroline Garcia. Am I making this up?
I have no idea.
Well, one of them won a slam. Stop yourself.
Okay, okay, all right, all right. Do they carry it around on their head, like like
Oh
the
my God,
shirt
you're
says?
horrible.
Are
You're
you
the
looking at my
devil.
title? Are you looking? Okay,
When
okay. We're
you
not here
wish
for
I
the shenanigans.
those
We're not
were
here for
as
the
compelling as
shenanigans.
that T-shirt.
I mean, look, I don't know what's going on. France is currently under lockdown. Okay, 9 p.m. Right now, your ass cannot be out in France. It's 12:30 midnight. You can't be out in the street. And Paris has the time and the audacity to still drag a black woman down. I mean, I'm just like, the fuck.
Tell
Somebody
us
is
what
trying to
happened. Take us
someone's
through
trying to
it,
bring
Gil.
some shine to your event, and every year you keep showing yourself. So my girl Naomi Osaka decided, you know what? Yeah, I've been out in these streets talking about she don't win no clay court title. She ain't winning no clay court matches. You know what I mean? She showed up at all the events. She showed up in Madrid. She showed up in Rome. Did you show up in Stuttgart? I don't know if she did, but Angie did, and Angie didn't win that. So the odds is real. So and she
They
put
need
out
to
a little
just find a new
statement.
Sharapova for Stuttgart. Stuttgart
And
until they
Ooh.
keep finding a new Sharapova, we're
I
screwed.
mean,
But
that went downhill, right? I mean, so
oof.
God don't like ugly. Ever since they
Mm-mm.
decided to give Sharapova a drug pass, that tournament just went downhill. Who's showing up for that?
Karma.
Who's showing up to play
Poor
dirt in the inside, in a sandbox on the inside? That ain't cute, boo. Take that shit outside. Anyway, so my girl Naomi Osaka decided, I'm gonna put out a little statement and let you all know, y'all ain't finna to talk to me any old how in the press room. Y'all ain't gonna be sitting on here trying to tell me, girl, like your serve is off, whatever the case may be. It ain't that serious. And I mean, you know what? She can come for me too, because I keep saying, like, win for said, you're not teaching a girl how to come to net, and that's gonna be key for something like clay code. But whatever. She put out a statement saying, for my health and safety, you know what? I'm not showing up. I don't want to do press. I'm going to keep my mental health first. I mean, wow. I'm going to put myself before tennis journalists. And you know how I feel about tennis journalists. It's not a thing. Tennis journalism does not exist. Okay? Maybe in
Well,
the
let's be
past,
clear.
but it's a
Let
dinosaur.
let's let's
So,
be clear. She
mhm,
did say from the get-go, because I
mhm.
keep hearing if she just would have said that,
No, no,
she
no,
did
no.
say she
Let's
was
be clear.
doing
Howard Bouchard said that shit.
no,
And
Wait, wait,
everyone.
wait, wait, wait. Let's
mm,
not go down the road of. Let's say what she clearly said.
mhm.
Janina, say what she clearly said.
She said, "I will not be doing any press conferences in Roland Garros in order to focus on her own mental well-being." Period. That's
And it was
all.
only for
She said
this
it.
tournament. She didn't make a claim to
Right.
any other tournament. She said
Exactly.
it was just this tournament alone. It was not a blanket statement about press conferences permanently. It was press conferences at this singular event, right?
And let's be
Mhm.
very clear that press conferences is a very specific thing. Okay, press conference isn't talking to what's that little tiny dude name? Gives Federer ips. He has his forehand and backhand is the same thing. He just played tennis.
Yes, I know. We
You know
know.
I'm talking about the French.
It's not when they
It's not
come
when they
up
talk
and
to you
the
on
post,
the
post and
uh,
pre.
post
She would.
match and
It
pre
didn't
match,
mean that she
whatever.
wasn't going to talk to press. Period. It
Yes,
just meant
she
that she
just
was not showing up for the press
press
conference. You
conferences.
could, because I've heard questions about this. A Japanese journalist could, of course, request that she come on a TV show or request her in any other capacity. I'm assuming, but she just says, "I'm not doing press conferences," which is a different animal. It's very specific.
Right. And we know the press conferences generally happen before the tournament, where it's like a cattle call, basically, or right after a match, and, you sit in front of this thing. She said, no bueno, I'm going to be cute. And apparently, I don't know who she thought she was because I thought she was fine. She gave an excuse. She gave it beforehand. She didn't show up the day off and say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not talking to you all." She gave them full 5 days notice. They knew this
And
shit
she
going in.
admitted that she was going to accept the fine.
And she said, I'm willing to accept the fine. And I know that I am in a privileged position to do this. I am willing to accept the fine. And
So
Moving
what's
on.
wrong with that? Like, let's just stop there.
Mhm.
What do you both think about that statement? Let's not deal with the reaction thus far, but let's just
Mhm.
talk about it.
So when I initially read that statement, I thought, you know what? Good for you for A, speaking out, and B, financially being in a position where you can afford to do that because everybody can't. I mean, we know that if you don't go to you get fined. That's standard. It's not a secret rule. It happens in every sport. So I was like, good for you. You don't want to put yourself up against that. You don't have to. And you have done well enough for yourself that you can afford to not do it. And I loved that she said, hopefully all this money that you're going to find me will go towards mental health, some type of mental health research or, um however she uh mental health charity is what she specifically said. She said, I hope the considerable amount that I get fined for this will go towards a mental health charity.
Well, and also the other thing about that is that any kind of money that they make from fines actually goes back into player development. So it's actually a good thing that they were getting a stack of cash. It would actually go towards a good result in some ways if you wanted to think about it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Well, seeing that I am a bitch on a budget and I have
Mm-hmm.
no budget, I was mad that she had to pay any coins to begin with because I'm like, she gave you all an excuse. Okay?
Yeah.
I was like, girl, get a doctor's note. Because it wasn't like, let's say, the Queen Venus was just like, oops, sorry, I ain't showing up to y'all shit today. Nope, y'all ain't feeling to drag me because I got knocked out in the first round again. Nah, not on my watch. That wasn't the thing, right? She gave you an excuse. She didn't just say, the statement was just like, you know what, y'all feeling to drag me. I ain't talking to y'all. She said, my mental health, my mental well being is very important to me. And therefore, I'm going to choose put me first because this is what I need. And I think I'm giving you due notice that I would not be showing up for this other thing. No, granted, this is Naomi Osaka. I mean, as these journalists, quote unquote, be saying, she's not that good on clay. And I'm just like, ain't nothing y'all really need to be talking to this girl and asking this girl anyway. Do you understand what I'm saying? Nothing she could be saying is really that serious. Or nothing any tennis player can say. If a tennis player chooses not to go to a press conference, it's really not that serious, really, in my opinion.
So
And
then let's ask.
and then she give you notice. So to me, I was mad that she had to pay a fine. I thought the French Open was gonna be like, okay, girl, I hear you. Bad, sorry. You know, what I mean, because guess what? Typically, they expected her to lose in the first or second round, so she was going to
Well,
disappear.
regardless of that, though, I don't even. Why would you be mad that she has to pay a fine? She took the responsibility for
No,
knowing that
I
missing a
understand that
presser.
she took the
You're right.
responsibility for that, but for me, it was just that she gave you notice. This wasn't like what you could have interpreted as a flagrant, like you're mad about something, right? Like she wasn't mad about anything. She did this before the tournament even started. Like players who refuse to go to press conferences, typically after a bad match or loss of a match, don't show up to press conference, right? That's typically the scenario that we've come to expect, right? And then they're being accused of being rude and not taking the responsibility seriously. So to me, she gave you notice before the tournament even before the draw even came out. She said, I don't want to do this. And she had a legitimate reason for doing this. She
So
didn't
let's talk about that. Let's talk about what do you why the reaction that you think why the different reactions, why the sort of defensive reaction from the press and then also the reaction to her note. Like what do you think they were interpreting that about beyond what we've just said? Like we as fans heard her said, more power to you. You are in a meritorious position in the sense that you have enough money, because that's what tennis loves to say, that it rewards merit. So she made enough money that she could actually make this choice. No one really cares about what other players' choices are. I know that they like to float it out there. Oh, what about the poor old? Nobody cares about the poor old tennis player. They really don't.
because y'all had an opportunity to do that very thing with
During the
Panini and you
pandemic.
didn't do
And
shit.
exactly. So we know
Only
that that's
Wimbledon
just
stepped up to the plate.
yeah, that's just a thing people say. So she obviously had worked herself to the point where this is the point of being a top player, right? You have ultimate flexibility. Is you can do what you need to do. But why do you think there was such a bad backlash? What do you think it was about for the tournament? What did they read in her statement and interpret differently than we did?
I don't know that they interpreted anything differently. I think there's just this over um, overarching expectation. I'm the boss. You're not the boss. You do what we say. We have put these rules in place. How dare you challenge it? Because that's really what this is at this point. It was a power struggle. So she's telling you, I'm not going to do this. The tournament's like, how dare you? And I would be interested if it comes out or we find out if if there was any, I'm sure there was some, but behind the scenes conversations about how they should handle it, and if it was suggested that they say, okay, just let her go. But if journalists or big network TV or publications said, no, 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 you can't do this, we need access to her. And if that is something that maybe forced them to be a little more aggressive in their response. I think that journalists feel sometimes that it is their right to speak to an athlete. And I guess, when you're thinking of it, if you don't ever get to speak to them in certain ways, you lose you lose a way that you're used to covering the sport and the people that play the sport. I get that. But if someone is crying out that they're struggling and that this is going to help them, you would hope that the initial response from everyone would be compassion and empathy. But
Oh
I
no, because
really
I think
think
they
it was
No,
thought.
about
I think you're
I
giving
think
them
it's
far
about
more credit.
power.
No, I
No,
do
I'm
agree.
not giving anything. I'm saying this is what I would hope. This is what I would hope. This is clearly she's saying something is not right, but there's too much of a power structure. They
I think
don't no one challenged.
there's a very
Because if it
interesting.
wasn't the case, if that weren't the case, then they wouldn't have had this backdoor scrambling and had all the grand slams come together and say, you better do this or we're not going
Okay, so
to at all.
Janina, you think that they were interpreting it as a power struggle. Reels, what do you
Yeah.
think was going on?
Well, there is a, I don't know if it's a theory, but I think the for lack of a better word, I don't want to be disparaging to these people in the press corps or whatever. They took this up. They felt that somehow they wanted to, as always, these people wanted to, what's the word I want to use here? They wanted their moment because for the press
Yeah, they wanted their moment with her, right?
no,
With
not just with her
with her
specifically. They
being
wanted their
vulnerable.
moment. This was a moment for them to shine and
Yep.
be the subject of the conversation here, right? Because this is a woman that they know for a very long time, right? They know that she wasn't being malicious. They know this. Like it wasn't like
Well, why
she.
would you assume that though?
No, because I mean, like in the sense that because aren't they the one going on all the time? The Naomi Osaka is so nice, and she was a victim of Serena shenanigans, shitty, bang bang, whatever. I mean, it's the same people. But I
Yeah,
thought
same
that
people. Yeah.
that for me, it goes back to part of my theory that says that they're gonna find out that Naomi is a black woman, and that she's some diminutive Asian woman that they try as like a child, like she's growing. And Naomi Osaka, I think the press had to. I think there's two things. Part of what Janine is saying, and also Naomi Osaka is showing they interpreted it as a power move for sure. But I think the press then felt like this was our moment to get out from behind this thing and gather ourselves. Because I think many of the press in the press code there who are covering and following tennis and claiming it's their livelihood resent these players large by and large. They resent them because in their mind they are making too much money and we're making none. I don't know how they don't have them figured out how to make some money in this process because tennis got a lot of money going around it. But they decided that the person that they can be angry with, it's with the players. So here was this girl who decided she didn't ask them. She just said, I was not showing up for the press. And she was right because there's a level of mean girl and nasty cattiness that comes out. We saw this immediately with the French Open, right? They've put
Hmm.
out a tweet that says these people understood the assignment, right? And every player, and I'm sure the WTA sent out the talking points that said, yes, say the press is great, and saying the press that we got to do the press and respond. And here was a player saying, like I said, she was very clear. I am not doing this because of my mental health, right? I am putting myself first. And I think if we go back a little bit, I think, as Janina pointed out with the power move, I think they felt this was the moment to check this, lack of a better word, this bitch. Because guess what? Naomi Osaka has held these tournaments at ransom in their minds two, three times now, right? When there was the Cincinnati, the fake Cincinnati, she was like, look, y'all ain't doing this shit right. Black people are getting killed every fucking day in the summertime. We've seen the horror of summer. I'm over this shit. Playing tennis is not that serious. Because if it's one thing Naomi Osaka is, it's very clear in her intention. She's never been like, put out some ambiguous tweet. It's very clear. People are asking for more clarity on what has already been stated. If you look at her follow-up statement, she's basically repeating herself and she's giving more details that people didn't really need. But she did this in Cincinnati. Then she wore the mask at the US Open and she won the tournament. Then she won the Australian Open. And guess what? Y'all didn't get the rise out of her that y'all wanted to get out of her. And guess what? Here you are at another tournament. And this was a quiet moment because here's the thing. None of these things needed to be anything more than it really was, right? You could have just let this girl go, fine her. She was going to pay the fine because this is all that ever happens, right? It's not like when players skip out on press conferences, you tar and feather them. You just find them and move along to the next event. You never charge the other, go to all the other players like, well, Venus didn't show up for press conference. What do you think about that? Do you understand what I'm saying? You just give her a fine and then move along. But to them, they had to check her and put her in her place. And that seemed to be the way of which we go when it comes to athletes of color, that they felt somehow, they were put upon. And this was a moment in which because all the other Grand Slams signed up for this shit, right? They co-signed on this letter, this really.
So that was the next sequence for people who haven't been tracking. The next sequence is after Osaka statement came out, the Grand Slams all got together and released a statement where essentially they suggested that if she didn't reverse her position, they would consider increasing her fines and potentially banning her from the tournament.
The tournament, right? Because I think she won the match. She played first up. She played first up on Sunday. Yep. First match, 5 o'clock 5 o'clock my time, 11 o'clock their time. She won straight set. She spoke to that guy. His name is driving me insane. Santoro.
Yeah.
Fabrice Santoro. That's Santoro. It. Thank you very much. Of course, Andrea would know the Frenchies. And she didn't show up for the press conference. And that's when, because they couldn't levy a fine until she actually did something wrong, right? So they levied a $15,000 fine, which is more than they've ever, because I think Venus has always been like, what, $5,000, $3,000 or some shit like that. It's never been like 15,000. And then they issued this statement and said, the press is really important, yada, yada, yada. And therefore, if she doesn't comply, if this continues, we're going to increase the fine to ultimately being defaulted from the tournament, which is like, when she gets to the second week, like you're going to barely give a player a walkover and be like, what is that? What is that? But okay, here we go again.
What did you think they wanted her to do after she got the statement? What did you think they were hoping that she would do?
They wanted her to say, okay, I'll come to press. They tried to bully her into saying, all right, fine, I'll do it your way. That's it. When you have the 4 major biggest tournaments of your sport, there is nothing bigger than the Grand Slams, nothing, or the majors. When they all collectively release a statement saying, basically, you know what, you can't do this. You be a good girl. You come to press, or we're just not going to be allowed to play. And let's be honest about something. Naomi Osaka is a tennis star, no doubt. But she's not the person that makes tennis run. So they don't really care if she's there that much or not. She doesn't have, I don't think, probably a huge financial hit if she's not there. As say when Serena pulls out, when Rafa pulls out, when Roger pulls out, that hits a tournament where it hurts. They lose money. They're not going to lose a lot of money if Osaka's not there. She just doesn't have that kind of
French.
She doesn't have that kind of fan base. So they were able to stretch, flex their muscle and say, you sit down, stop that, be a good girl, go to press, or we're just going to push you out completely. And that is just nothing but just that maneuver was bullying and manipulative.
And
And to
causing the
try to
same.
encase that, well, but they tried to encase it in niceties. We have resources for you. We are concerned about our players' well-beings. Let us help you. We've tried
My
to reach out to you.
out to
You don't
you.
want to talk to us right now. We can't help you if you won't talk to us. So basically, it's like an abusive
It's what
relationship.
they're basically saying. We have not determined what you are saying is true, and
Well,
therefore,
that was the thing. Yeah, I guess I was trying to. I'm curious though. There were a couple. I will say that when I first heard about it, I was like, good for you, fine. But then I was really thinking about sort of the function of a press conference, the purpose of a press conference,
and
and
specifically the purpose of a French conference as it works in tennis itself.
in tennis itself, right? And recognizing that realistically, people, because there were a couple of responses, right? We have Howard on our show quite a bit from ESPN, and he talks about the idea that the press conference is a public platform in which we sort of get to hold players accountable, right? They get to be accountable to the sport itself. If you can't find a player, if you're not a star, if you're not somebody who a player will say yes to, da 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 da, in some sense, the press conference is a kind of equitable space. If you are able to get into that room, you could theoretically pose a question to a star that will never talk to you, right? Because if you're from the New York Times, I mean, maybe you can reach out to her agent or whatever, and you'll get an interview. But a press conference is kind of an equalizing space. So on some level, there's a kind of like, I can understand the value of something like that. So I'm not dismissing the press conference as a tool for democratizing the press, right? The press court, maybe, and then also giving people access to a player. So there's that piece. And then there's the other statement that I think the WTA pushed out, and then also Billie Jean King pushed out, which is, she's a big star in the sport. Women's tennis doesn't get a lot of mileage. Oftentimes it's second fiddle to the men. So they're eager for women to even be interviewed, right? Because they can recall a time when women weren't even given the mic. Like, I think there's something to be said for those 2 points of view, no?
For sure,
Well,
absolutely. But it doesn't negate the fact that somebody is saying, I am suffering and I can't do this right now, and for you to show no compassion. And honestly, I think most reputable journalists, when a player doesn't want to talk to them, they don't want to talk to him either. They're
Well,
like,
not if the
because
player
they know,
is
what am I
successful.
going to get from this?
Yes, but if the player is a
So
star, you
this
want
this
them.
is so akin to like you call your boss and say, "I'm not feeling well. I'm not coming into. I can't come into work
But
today,"
you know what? They
and
didn't
your boss.
interpret it that way. This is what I'm saying.
no,
We
they
are
didn't.
interpreting it that way. And that's the thing that's a disconnect for me, is that we immediately saw it and judged it as a singular issue, and they globalized it.
Because I think again it goes back to the I think the media always wanting to be the star in all of these things, right? Because you know who I didn't hear from? I didn't hear from the WTA insider. None of them, right? And they usually
Yeah,
push
that was
this,
actually really interesting. I didn't see any kind of commentary around what this
right?
might mean, because they also didn't defend her. They didn't defend her as an individual. They also globalized it. And so
Exactly.
I thought that was really strange, because it was a particular instance that was globalized and generalized to press conferences in general and to tennis players generally. Nobody, it's like they also wanted her to demonstrate the mental health issue, like
Right.
through some
On
sort of paperwork or something,
exactly. They wanted to say they wanted her to do the very thing that she said she couldn't do.
which is to
Right?
reveal herself.
Yeah.
Exactly. You wanted to have to go press conference to tell her to you all of the details, right?
They
And
wanted
and
to
and
lead for them. They
right. And
wanted
the
her to cry
audacity
yes.
of this
They
girl
wanted all
to
of that.
right. And here's the thing is that y'all had all the players come in there and say press conferences are wonderful. We're gonna do this. So there is no danger of this institution being dismantled today, this
But it
week.
is, I think they know it's in danger though. Can I just say, I think that's why they globalized it? Because at
Because
the
here's
end
the
of the day, they also recognize, first and foremost, very few places are paying for tennis players, tennis reporters, excuse me, to go to conferences. Newspapers are cutting staff left and right. Most of the time, you have to do this on your own steam, right?
Hmm.
So I think they see a future where the press conference is a thing of the past.
But that's not Naomi's responsibility on
But
how to fix it.
it isn't
And
her
her presence
They're
wouldn't have,
using it as a tool.
but
but they're
her
using it as
presence
a
would not
tool.
have changed any of that. And
I mean, we know that, Reels, but we're talking about what they did versus what they are doing. What happened from our perspective
so
about
they
an
use
individual
this
player.
moment as a way to hijack this. They hijack this
I
moment,
think
this
it was.
place,
It was
to
but you said
put
it. You said it
themselves
was
as the
power.
star, to say that they're the victims here,
No, but
right? Can you
not only
imagine
is
that?
it about victims. No, listen. This is let's get real close about this. Let's get real close about this in terms of money. At the end of the day, and I think Janina has said this in the past, players have a broader platform than tournaments. And it was particularly interesting to me based on the statement that the ITF released, right? Which was that no player is bigger than the sport. We've been doing this for hundreds of years. Well, I don't know what you're going. I want to tell you all. You did the Davis Cup, and that floundered and disappeared. So what I'm just
Hopman
trying to
Cup. I
say
mean,
is,
like
no
ATP.
tournament is really sacred. I think this is what's interesting to me. We have to think about COVID. We have to think about the cancellation and the need for these tournaments. These tournaments are not making, they're probably losing money during this period of time, right? So it's like they're also on shaky ground as a
Mhm.
tournament. And we can't presume that they're safe, right? And now you look at the person who is what, the highest paid female athlete
In the world,
in
not in
the
tennis,
world,
in the world.
in the world. And she says, I'm not talking. You're not even going to get to question me about the fact that I'm the highest paid athlete. You're not going to get to question me about any of these other things. Aside from you're not going to do well on clay, they don't get to have all that fodder that they want to fill up, right?
And let's be honest. I feel safe and confident in saying that some people's feelings are hurt by this because they feel that they have a special relationship with her. And she even acknowledges this in her second statement, that there are some press that have been with her through her career since she was young that she is very friendly with. So I think that people may have and probably did take this somewhat personally when they didn't need to. But Osaka saying, as Andreen was saying, being the highest paid female athlete in the entire world, her saying, I'm not going to do this, they are scared to death that this sets a precedent for other players to do the same thing. They do not want her to get away with this unscathed, and so that somebody else can come and say, I'm not gonna do press. I'm gonna
I
take
mean,
the fine. I don't want to do it today.
I,
They don't it, they don't even want them to do it occasionally. It doesn't happen a lot. It The only really big players that say I'm not doing press that I can think of off the top of my head, Serena has done it where she's just not shown up and taken the fine. Um, Djokovic has done it. I don't know
Venus.
of yeah, and Venus has done it. I can't think of any other superstars in tennis that have done it. If Osaka does this and says, I don't like the way that I feel when I'm in this position, and let's not forget that she also said, y'all ask the same shit over and over again. And
But
it's old.
this is the thing that gets to me too. You're going to see this girl next week in Wimbledon, okay? Like, save the questions for then.
That's
It's
the
not.
truth. The same
But
question is
they
going to be asked
don't
next week.
But I
they
don't
do not
because
want anybody to follow in her
They don't want
footsteps.
to see her. They don't
this
want
is
to
the
see
thing.
ground. But you know what? This was so poorly managed.
Oh my
Everyone
God!
talks
Like
about how it was
so
poorly managed from her side, but it was poorly managed from their side. Because
exactly.
WTA, first and foremost, you as the WTA, you should have immediately said to her, we completely understand that Naomi Osaka has expressed an interest about self-care. We know that this is an exceptional moment for her, and this is just this one tournament. We thank her so much for paying the fine, blah, blah, blah. We should really be thinking about the mental health services that we have available for our players, blah, blah, blah. And actually, they could have hijacked the whole thing and make it
It
be
made
about
it
mental health. Like they could have
oh,
done
it
this.
could have been great.
They could have
Which
totally
This could have
hijacked
been
it and
great.
just
by the
done it.
way, it's Mental Health Awareness Month, right?
Exactly.
And
And so it was like a
APPPI
perfect
month,
teachable moment. It was
right?
a teachable moment for them to say, you know what? We are so amazed at her leadership in taking this moment away from the sport, blah, blah, blah. Not even away from the sport. She's still participating. She's doing every single thing that she's supposed to do. I mean, if we go back to Ash Barty, which by the way is everyone's saint, Ash Barty took herself away from the sport. You had no access to her. So you didn't even get her at a press conference. You
But
didn't
they
get
didn't care about Ash Barty because Ash Barty was the number one. But
well,
here's the thing.
but
Well,
this
but
is
when
the
she
thing,
was
but I'm
number
just
one,
saying,
I mean,
like
and here's
either
the
you have
crazy thing, people.
Naomi or you have someone who does an Ash
Well,
Barty,
Ash,
right?
and here's the thing. We are in the middle of a fucking
Still,
pandemic. I
still, people,
don't even
family
know how
members
to stress this
dying
without
left and
using the
right.
profanity. I mean, we have lost millions of people who, but for COVID, would have been alive here today. Naomi Osaka was in U.S. Open in September, in October, or November. I don't know whenever, they changed the schedule, right? It was in October, it was the U.S. Open. Her grandmother lived down the road. She couldn't see her grandmother.
Yeah,
Okay? Like COVID is real for people. Okay? I don't know what, and to think that you people decided to take a whole ass hammer
I know. It
to
was
deal with a fly. To deal with a fly.
it
Like
was such an
literally you took a
overload.
hammer to deal with it. Like all of
But
these
can I tell
people,
you though,
the
I also
WTA, the
I was
ATP,
disappointed. All of them.
I was so disappointed in the players' reaction. Like,
Well,
yeah, I love press.
listen, I never expect anything from players because one of the things that we have learned observing the sport at a distance is that players refuse to acknowledge their power. They all saw this as an opportunity to curry favor with the press and to say, yes, please don't worry about her. Interview me instead. And then I
Yep.
saw
But
double players
but
going,
that's all
well,
you're
you don't
talking
know interview
about.
double.
But that's the
And I was like,
thing.
I was like, this is a moment for you to actually extend yourself as an employee and take some of your power back in this moment is to say to yourself, because she actually, I think she raised the issue of like, she didn't say that she was against pressers, period, right? She said that pressers could be better. And then she also said that if players were going through an emotional period, maybe we should give them an out from press conferences. That's potentially what she has raised as two options, right? Be better at doing press, period, which why wouldn't anyone want to do that? And second, maybe don't invite players to press when you know things are going on with them,
And
which
also, we can discuss this.
yeah,
And there is room for discussion for this
it was
matter.
really strange. I thought it
I,
was just a lot of failures on like multiple. I don't think anyone show out well. Who showed out well?
Muguruza said, "It's not my business."
well,
Well,
Muguruza just said that because she just
do you know what?
lost
But
and
that's
they were
the
asking
But
when
you
she
know
withdrew from
what?
the tournament.
the same as every
But
single time.
look,
But that's who
I
those women
tweeted,
have.
but
We
I
haven't even addressed the situation because of all of this fallout now.
Yeah,
Naomi
finally.
Osaka just decided, like, fuck y'all, I'm out of here. There
Well,
is no
because
but
reason
look,
because the
fallout.
focus has now become me and
Yep.
the focus isn't about tennis,
Well,
which is
wait,
what.
let's back up and say she was chastised by pressers. She was chastised by every single reporter that I saw, that I follow generally. She
Mhm.
was chastised by the WTA, which is essentially kind of her union, even though we don't really have one, but
Right.
that's
At
her.
this place, it
And,
becomes the
and
union, de
yeah,
facto
and
union.
then she was chastised by no,
ITF,
who else? The ITF,
the
players,
Federer,
and then
all of the majors.
fellow players threw her under the bus. The only
Billie
people
Jean
I saw,
King.
Billie Jean.
Oh,
So the only people who I actually said who thought and at least were very thoughtful about her were other athletes and women of color,
outside of the sport.
prominent women of color on Twitter and other spaces seemed to recognize this as a call for help on her part and was able to acknowledge that. I didn't see anyone else within tennis's sphere, and pardon me if I missed it, but I didn't see anyone within the closed space of
Right.
tennis
Who knew tennis, who understood what was going on,
put
who
up anything
put
reasonable.
up anything. And this was so embarrassing because you know what? No, this is how much because no one was studying the French Open. I mean, no one. Guess what? French
It was very
Open.
helpful though for the French Open to get some press.
This is the attention you get.
Yeah.
Again, you handle these things horribly. Like remember at Cincinnati? Naomi Osaka say, I'm out of this tournament. Y'all shut down the shit. Didn't know what the fuck y'all were doing. Y'all just got mad, right? How dare she shut down the tournament? She didn't shut down the tournament. She just said, I'm out. I don't want to have to concentrate on tennis and watch my people be
Arguing
out there in the
for
street
Black
being
people.
See,
murdered.
But see, this goes back to them. This is why I say it's a power struggle.
Yeah, this is
She has
about them
already
shutting
done things that they feel are disruptive
Yeah.
in the sake of the greater
because
good,
she wins.
and they're like,
She
"You're not going
wins.
to do this again.
But here's
We're
the
not going to let you do this again. We will exclude you if you
Period. We
continue
will
to
check
do
you.
this."
Well, let's talk about this because Janina's been saying this, and so let's go down this road a bit. So,
But did you win the last time though? I'm just saying
no,
you're
I
not
mean,
winning these
well,
battles.
you're not going to
You're
win the
not winning.
battles. You're
I
not
mean,
winning the battle. But
because
I think so. Let's talk about this from the perspective of: is there a way that Naomi could have done this that would have had a better reaction from all of these folks?
she could have been white.
For real.
I mean,
True story. I think
I
it
mean,
would have mattered.
I don't know what
I
else to
do.
tell you. Listen to me. Naomi Osaka is better than me. Okay? She
Mhm.
gave them a note before the tournament even started. Okay? I would have showed up. I would have come to the door and be like, hey, I'm not coming in here. So if y'all got something to do, y'all better do that. You could send me the check later. That would have been me. Okay? Listen to me. I don't give a shit if it's a celebrity. I don't exercise special justice for celebrities, nor should I exercise special treatment for celebrities. Okay? They're human beings. Okay? They are subjected to the same whims and fancy. Okay? I I don't need my artists to be out here struggling. I don't need them to go
I
down to
know.
a path to be drugs and whatever. And let me tell you something. Ain't a goddamn thing in this world I think is far more important than people's well-being. I
Yeah,
don't
for
care if they
sure.
do better good work when they're struggling. I don't need any of this. I need them to be because you know what? Because when they disappear and die, I'm gonna follow somebody else.
Exactly. You're
You know what
expensive. The other thing I think, can we talk a little bit? Well, Janina, let's go down this road, but I also want to talk about press conferences in general and what people assume about them as like a form itself, that they're harmless, all of those things. But Janina, you've been saying this wouldn't happen to Roger Federer. I say
No.
Roger Federer would never do this.
I don't think it matters. I don't think he would do it either. I want to be
Yeah.
clear about that. I don't think he would do it. But I don't think it matters that he wouldn't do it. I think if he did do it, there is no way in hell that the Australian Open, Wimbledon, Roland Garros, US Open band together and say, Roger, cut it out or we're not letting you play. That would never in a million years happen. Never,
but
ever,
but
ever. He sells all their fucking tickets. They're going to tell him you can't come? No, it wouldn't happen. When Roger speaks, people listen, period.
but but here's the thing though. It's a black woman, so they want to disrespect her anyway.
And that
Because
is
let me
my
tell you
point.
something.
They
Serena
feel
is
that they
selling
can.
the ticket. Serena is selling the ticket because I'm telling you something. No one showing up the U.S. Open. I mean, I'm telling you,
They didn't
it's
show up for the
Serena.
final
You're
without her.
right. Serena sells
But
tickets, but tennis does not think
fair.
twice about coming hard on her.
Yeah, it doesn't matter for them
Never.
because
It doesn't
listen,
matter.
the entire
Which is why I
tournament
chose Roger
in
Federer
hell
as the
without them.
example.
Yep.
Would
Right
they
now,
do this to Serena? Absolutely, they would do this to
because
Serena. They
here's
would
the
tell her,
But you know
get
what
in line,
this
get in line,
this
sit
is
down and shut up
but
and
here's the
dribble. They would do
you know
all
what they
that.
would have done though? I will say I think what they would have done was they would have heard it as an individual, which is the power
right exactly.
like whiteness, right? Whiteness allows you to be an individual. So if Roger Federer had written that note, they would have heard it as a cry for help and would have accommodated it.
They would have
I
said,
don't
Roger, what can we
I
do to
don't
help?
even listen to
How
me.
can we make this better?
I don't even like this idea of a cry for help because for me,
Well,
if
yeah, I
no
don't
no
love the cry for help
because
language
for
either.
me, if Naomi ain't feel like doing press, it's
Then
all
she's not
right.
have
She
yeah,
don't
it's
have to do it. You
doesn't
understand what I'm
have to
saying?
yeah.
And I'm telling because here's the thing:
That's the point.
forcing people to work, it's called slavery,
It
and
is.
it is illegal. Okay, like
It's
it
true.
is illegal. I am
Listen,
not.
No, let's not be that. No, wait a minute.
you
No,
Wait
no,
a
no.
minute.
I am
Wait a minute.
serious. I
Let's
am
be
serious
stop.
because
You
here is
can't
the
be that
thing.
extreme.
Because
No,
no, no,
no,
no,
no,
no,
no,
no,
no.
Janina.
Wait.
No,
no,
wait,
no,
wait,
no.
wait, wait,
But you know
wait, wait.
what though? Let me just say that. I know you're about to do it, Janina, but I will say it is okay. I will say this out loud. It is okay for wealthy people to continue to have mental health issues, even if they have all the cash in the world. Second, it is okay for wealthy people to choose not to do things. I know people like to punish wealthy people. Listen, I get it. I get the impulse. But wealthy people are not able to ignore all the things
But
that
but but
happens to you as a
but
human
here's the
being.
thing though, they're punishing the wealthy individual and not punishing the system. And this is the thing that's missing for me. And I'm going on this road because here's the thing, Janina. The manner in which these people are talking, how dare she? She must come in here and sit down and answer these stupid questions. I mean, this is really what it is. I mean, like, look, remember just this week, Coco Goff, I think she won a match. Did she play a match or whatever the case may be? Somebody, Coco showed up for press.
And
Yeah.
they asked her,
So
yeah,
the 17. So people compare you to Serena. I know it's because you're black, you're a girl, or maybe because you play tennis and you're kind of all right. You know
and
what
you're
I mean? Like,
American.
the fuck is that? American. Like, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? And here's the thing. Here's the thing that really drives me really insane. It's these very same people in that press room. It ain't no different. I'm sure it
Yep.
ain't nobody new out in that room. When fucking Maria Sharapova was doping, they had no fucking questions to ask. The only question
None.
they were asking is, how was she so sloppy that she got caught? They more like, but that's what they said, right?
Half of them
They
didn't
said
even admit that she was doping.
exactly. They produced a narrative to say this couldn't have been doping. This was just sloppy email management. This
I
was
know.
what this was.
Billie
When she
Jean
came
King.
back,
Billie
when
Jean
she came
King
back,
gave
Maria
her
offered an
welcomed her
excuse.
back. Billie
Maria
Jean
offered
King
an
welcomed
excuse.
her back.
Exactly. Maria offered an excuse and said Maldonia, my Mildrena, as she was calling it, was for health reason, right? She got everything, but I don't know.
And what's the difference
COVID.
here? What is the difference?
Mildred was to cover
Maria
everything
is
but COVID. And guess what? Somebody asked. So now that you no longer have access to Mildred and Meldonium, what you're using? They were like, how dare you ask that question? But
yep.
this is the rule. This was the rule for that question, right? They said we can't ask any of these questions. So I'm just like, what it is that you my thing is what I
Listen,
really want is that what is the story y'all really wanted from Naomi
no, they
Osaka?
don't want a story. All three of us here have sat in on press conferences. We all know what they look like. People who claim to be journalists don't ask tough questions because they don't want to lose their privilege of being allowed in the room. That's it.
So then
That's
if you're not
why
so if you're
there's
not
all
gonna
this
ask the
friendly
tough question,
talk.
so if you're not asking the tough questions, and if you're not hoping to hold people accountable, but when it really matters, because I think the time for the press to have really demonstrated their value was during the Pova thing, and they all failed. It was like the real press when we were talking
I
about
mean,
Trump. They
I
all
mean,
failed that test.
e-
So what
even
is the
when the
thing that they
exactly
want us to do? They want basically to say, basically they wanted the right to poke at Naomi in her most vulnerable on her most vulnerable surfaces. That's what they wanted. The right to do that, right? Because they're not going to ask her tough questions, as you've just said. They're not going to create a scenario in which, like, they're going to really deal with and unpack
but it's
maybe
an
the mental
it's,
health
it's an
stuff.
ego trip you're saying basically. They get to be like, girl, you got all
Listen,
this money
They
and
get
look
to
the
cut
clay
her
making
down.
you silly.
they like to ask Naomi Osaka what fucking video game she's playing during press. I've witnessed it.
And then
They don't want to talk.
that
I bet
and
you
here's
know.
the thing.
Can I tell you the top three questions they wanted to ask her?
Mhm.
They wanted to ask her about her BFF, Iga, because Iga is the one that won the French Open. So they wanted to create a little bit of something, something there. How is it? How's it? You all are so close. This is not her favorite surface. Are you going to be able to be friends with this woman? Blah 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 blah. Second, they're going to want to ask her about her money situation. What are you spending it on? What are you doing? How's your family going to pay back everybody else that they owed money? And third, they wanted to rile her up about her game style and whether it's going to translate on these natural surfaces. So those are going to be
Go
dagger
look for
questions.
the fucking coach. He's right there.
I
Go
know they
talk to
can
the coach
interview him.
about the tennis spot. You want to talk about the money situation? Go talk to the manager. Like I really think coach.
Yeah, those are the things that you would have had access to. But you know what? This is the thing that we've been critiquing about. And this is why I shed no tears for the press conference. I really didn't.
But
I like the idea of a press conference. I don't think they do what they should do. And so I understand them as a kind of like objective thing that like it would be good to have, but how they actually play out is not something any of us is going to really miss. There
I
are a
mean,
couple people who I
what
think do
compelling
press
stories have we
conferences
got out of
well.
tennis for the last
No,
time?
you know what? The people who do the press conferences, it's so funny. The irony for me about pressers is the people who get the most out of it are the folks who actually do it for the sites. So like talk about the end of the fifth game when this happened. Like really concrete things that they then use to actually talk about the state of play in the actual match. All the other stuff is just fodder that actually doesn't have anything to do with the match that day or any of it. It's a really, really strange format because nobody talks about the match that was played and nobody really deconstructs the
No one
actual
watched the match, right?
play.
That's the first thing.
Yeah,
They didn't watch the match.
that's usually the case because you're
But
busy
here,
back and forth
but you know
doing
what else they
different
do?
things.
You do see sometimes, oh, tell me what happened here, tell me what happened there. But you know what? It's almost always something negative.
Yes, it's always
And I think that that's important because Osaka said, I feel like the press conference is good for kicking you when you're down. Very rarely those people who do cover tennis in that way go, you know what? You were up 2 breaks and then this happened. And you don't see them going into press so much in saying, well, you did this really well. It's always what they did bad. Almost
Look,
always.
we have discussed
well,
this
also
here
just like a
before, right?
not also like a general analysis to help even the fans understand what happened and what didn't happen and why this matchup
It,
is tricky or why you have a losing record against this person or why you have a winning record against this person. Like I don't think it's a very informative engagement.
listen, the fans doing a better job on that on Twitter. I could
Yeah,
go
they
on
do.
Twitter
They do.
and read about, and I mean, I know about Andrew's struggles. I know about Kiki's struggles, and I love that. I mean, like, I know all this tidbit from thing, and this is why. And here's the thing: I am getting so confused by. It's like y'all ain't doing no work, right? Like, no real compelling pieces are coming out of these things, right? Like, none of these journalists cover the actual state of tennis, like the
Yeah, you don't interview the
technology
right people.
revolution, the quote
Yeah,
thing.
you're not interviewing the right
What we
people.
usually get is some crazy bullshit of like whether Nole is the victim or Nole is the aggressor. You know, the sort of thing we don't
I
like.
know.
Federer, you know those hit pieces. And I'm going to consider, I mean, Christopher Clary might be the person who's getting the most clicks and most views, right? With the New York Times, and he puts out bullshit. I mean, honest to God, like sometimes they're just like,
It's
sir,
usually just PR light. Okay, so
exactly.
let's just talk about the press conference itself, though, because I think
Hold
we've
on,
been press
before you go
conference.
there, I'm sorry. I mean, like, did we? I didn't want to. Did we get into the Janina aspect of it when she was talking about the power play?
She did. She said
Okay.
she thinks it's gendered. She thinks it's racialized, and we do too. We definitely think it's about that. It's about putting her in her place. And in some weird way, she wasn't operating as an individual player. I think if it had been a white player, they would have taken it as an individual issue.
But but who is following a black player in the revolution but black people? And look,
So what do you mean? So do you think this
no,
is about what do you
what I
mean?
mean, whether you wanted to, so if they were taking her, I mean, like, this goes to my theory of you're using a hammer to kill, a
Yes.
fly, right? Like, if you think she's about to lead a revolution, how often do people follow the black players, right?
Well, let me not everybody follows a black player, but you do know that black people are usually ones that get you the
That
thing you
is true,
want.
right?
We're usually at the forefront of the
Exactly,
revolution.
but
So
but
I'm just saying that if there is going to be a change in the state of play in tennis, it will likely come from
the
a
black
person of
players,
color.
revolution for black. Well, but the mother issue them again from black players, a
Well, I
black
mean,
player,
like the difference in pay, it was
right,
Venus that was leading that charge,
right.
right? So I think when we talk about the state of play for players in terms of their mental health, just the state in which players
Historically, it
exist.
is okay. I see what you're
Historically,
saying
it's
here.
usually folks of color
So
or working class people who push the envelope. It is not going to be, I hate to say it is not going to be Roger Federer. It is not going to be anyone who is at the top of the game often that is comfortable and is not perceived as a threat. It's going to be the person who is perceived as a threat. And so
But
what Mhm.
but here's the thing that is really striking me. Is this the hill that they really wanted to come down
It's a
on?
big hill for
The
them. It's
the
about player
presses?
agency. You know what? You said it best. It's not about the press conference. It's about agency. It's about what the player chooses to do.
It's
It's about
not like she was in there
independent.
complaining about the food, or like she
No,
was
no, no, no,
complaining
no. It's
about
not about
like
that. No,
the
but you've said it
scheduling.
best. You've made it about power play, and then you're retreating.
No,
This
it's not
big.
even that. No, 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 no. I'm just simply saying that to me, that that this would be the hill that they're going willing to die on. It's just completely
Well,
absurd.
I think it's really strange that they're willing to die on the hill of reporters. I
Right.
mean,
That's
that's
what
the
I
part
mean.
of
That
it that
those
was crazy
players,
to me because I was
those
like, you
people.
employ. I mean, it's nice that they cover your tournament, obviously, but you even have your own access. You live in a social mediated world. You have your own Twitter feed. You have your ability to put out
I mean,
pressers.
listen to
You
me.
have
Have
your
y'all
ability to
ever
put out
seen
like
the
press releases.
have y'all ever seen the French Open highlights that they put out on YouTube?
Yeah.
You should check them out one of these days. Let me tell you something. They're gonna be 20 minutes of highlight. And let me tell you how much actual tennis actually happens. But they're gonna give you the whole warm-up session, the whole coming out, the whole warm-up, and give you a classic match and give you 5 minutes. So to me, they don't know how to market themselves. And tennis, if you're trying to grow this sport and grow the eyeballs, because everybody, a lot of people are home, they ain't tuning in for this shit. They're not
Well,
tuning in for
I
you
mean, there
fighting.
is a little bit of a disconnect there. I mean, it is sad, but I do want to talk about the press conference itself since it gets so much baggage. I want to suggest to people because I was looking at some of the quotes that I've seen from Rafa and Kei Nishikori and the men. And I would like to just suggest to the men that they're getting a different reporter than the
Mhm.
women are getting.
Yep.
And then even that the black women are getting. The idea that a reporter is simply going in there and speaking from this like objective, distant place, when we know that some of the reporters come with a certain bias and a certain energy already. So the
Yep.
idea that this is like a sort of neutral ground where everyone is on equal footing is actually a lie, right? Like that's the fantasy of a press, right? The fantasy is like the player and you are equal. But the reality is, and the way I've seen it play out, is that some players never get pushed. They are kowtowed to, and some players are pushed back on by reporters. I will never forget. There is a tennis reporter. I'm not going to trash her, but there's a tennis reporter that came on Twitter and
Tell me soft.
trashed
Tell
Venus
me.
for her refusal to give her talk points so she could go write her piece.
Tell
And the
me
whole
softly with the
time I'm
name.
watching that, I was just thinking to myself, you came on this Twitter and you are trashing a player because they didn't give you what you needed so that you can write a cute little thing. And all I could think about was how much they adored when Naomi Osaka used to just do this weird performance that she did for them. And
Mhm.
how they thought it was so cute and enduring, and that's what they wanted, right? And it was just really, really strange. And I've always resented the fact that a press conference was about the journalists getting this thing that they needed. And if the player didn't give it to them, they would punish them in the way they wrote about them. Because when I saw this reporter do that online, I was kind of stunned. Because I was thinking to myself, that feels really unfair that you are chastising this player because their only responsibility is to perform on the court.
Well, and the
Yes, it
flip
would be nice
side,
if they could presser, but it's not it's not their thing. It's not their
but what
talent.
happens after that, Andreen, and we've seen this too, when that reporter or group of reporters, because it happens a lot, when they write negatively about somebody because they didn't get what they wanted, they didn't get they may have even gotten an answer to their question, they just didn't get the answer that they wanted, right?
Yep.
Then they wonder why come next tournament, next week, when all the same people are in the room, because it doesn't change. I really wonder if people are truly aware of how much this huge global sport is, how it doesn't, who's in the room doesn't change that often.
It's not
But
that much difference. Yeah, it's the
Nope.
same
it's not.
people.
And
It's the
I
same
don't
for the
think people
people.
understand that. I really don't. Um, but anyways, then they question why the player is standoffish and guarded and doesn't want to give them anything. Well, why would they when you just dogged the fuck out of them 3 days
Tennis,
ago
no,
in a
but
different
here's the
city?
thing. Here's the thing I keep going back to. The players are not unintelligent beings, Some of them are, but most of them are not. You know
Normal
what I
people.
mean? Especially those with money. I think they get training and they get access and wise, about being a brand, whatever the case, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, like literally, there is no real value for any of these top players to sit down in any press room. Just none. Honestly, God, it doesn't help their brand. It
It
doesn't push.
does. It helps. Listen,
I
don't
No,
say that.
disagree with
no,
I
no,
that.
no.
disagree with that
Wait.
entirely. It helps the brand for the
Because
player with whom the reporter connects. Let
right.
me tell you
Mm,
something. Naomi
okay.
Osaka was their sweetheart, and
Mm-hmm.
they spent time punishing other players for not being Naomi Osaka.
Yep.
So do not tell me that they didn't spend time crafting and shaping a narrative about who Naomi Osaka was
But
and built up an audience for
but
her.
wasn't that built off of anti Serena?
Well, it might have been, but I'm
It
still
doesn't
saying
matter. It
it
happened.
Oh,
doesn't matter.
okay.
It
I see
happened.
what you're saying. I was just thinking about the fact that I am not seeing any real product out of
No, 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 no,
journalists.
no. Listen, they can make stars of a player. They can make that's a little bit of their power, and I mean
Oh,
that
like how
in
but you're
niche,
right. You're right because no
the
one knows
niche.
Petra is a home wrecker,
Exactly.
but
Nobody cares
Petra
about
is a
Petra
sweet
except
country
the fact
girl.
that all the press corps loves Petra. All the press corps loves Petra, but if you're gonna, I mean, and all the tennis players love Petra. But if you ask a random fan on the street to point Petra out of a lineup,
They
they
can't do
could
it.
they couldn't do it.
I
So
mean, if you listen to tennis journalism, the only tennis player that actually reads books is
Petkovic.
what's it? Petkovic. Yeah.
you
She's
know
the
they
only
have
one that reads.
they have a narrative about these players and they push those narratives, and if you are one of the ones that they like, they can build a narrative
But
around
does
you
that
that
hold
draws them
any
to
value does that hold any value outside
it
of
does it does
tennis Twitter? No. I mean
not
like in front of
tennis
the
Twitter.
tennis world, tennis
No,
Twitter.
no, it holds value if you show up and someone says, I want to cover Federer, I want to do a story on him, I want to do a story on the, I mean, you have to look at them within the context of the world in which they exist. Nobody, I don't see people running around trying to get a story on Venus because they think of her as recalcitrant, right? And like aloof. And so
Mm-hmm.
if you make yourself available to them and they can try to drum up something around you, it at least gives them something. It gives them fodder. So it is a mutually beneficial relationship if you get it right.
If
If
you get
you
it
get
right.
it right. And a lot of them, and so that's why Rafa doesn't understand. Rafa, you're the king of clay. They're not trying to punish you. Fed, you command that room. They're not trying to punish you. A few of them come at you,
It's
but
true.
not
When
really.
Federer comes it's like Ric Flair comes into a ring for a wrestling match. Like he
Yes.
just comes in, throws his coat around, and it's just like he is in. They are all in awe
I
of
mean,
Federer, and I'm just
listen,
like,
Mhm.
no one's asking this dude anything. Just
No,
like
I
Nole,
nothing.
remember
Nole had to
one
bring
time.
them chocolate. Remember? Nole had to
Oh
bring
God,
chocolate.
fucking Novak.
Oh
I
God!
can remember
And
though Ash Barty.
this thing is
Hold on.
doing that, right?
I remember one time, and this has stuck with me, and I liked it. It's
Mhm.
probably the only thing about Ash Barty that I really like because I don't know, whatever.
Say less.
But she was asked a question, she gave an answer. The interviewer wanted more, and she said, "Listen, we're not friends here.
Yep.
You are the press. I'm not, you're not." And I mean, and she literally said that. She's like, "You're the press. You can take my words and do whatever you want with them.
They do.
This is all I'm saying." And she is honestly the only person in tennis I've ever known to say that. We see athletes in other sports say this all
All
the
the time.
time. All the
They
time. They're
recognize
like,
that
you're
and
not
this
going to
is
do that to me.
and this is the thing. And so Janina, I'm so happy you brought this up because this was my problem with Naomi Osaka's statement when she withdrew. There's a period in the statement where she says that she apologized to the journalists with whom she's cool with because
Yep.
she might have hurt their feelings. Let me just let me know something. Let me tell you something right now. And this is the Jamaican girl coming out. There is no feeling between me and you. We ain't friends.
Yep.
We got a job to do. My job is to give you answers. Your job is to ask me. Being cool with you is weird. It's a weird narrative to actually create because what it suggests to me, and it's true, I get it. What it suggests to me is that there are journalists that are wink wink with you. And
Yep.
that's fine. I get that. But that's actually not also great. It's not a great thing to actually hear. And so the fact that she actually thought that she needed to apologize for hurting someone's feeling, you're both professionals. That's like apologizing for beating someone on a tennis court. You have a
Mhm.
job to do. Nobody would ever say, oh no, she's apologized for beating her friend. No one would expect that. Why am I apologizing because I've chosen to put boundaries between me and you?
Yep.
That reporter's job is to get information about you and to basically take it to an audience and shape it and tell a story about you. Yes, it's nice if the story is close to you, maybe, but it's not
Mhm.
always going to be you. And that's
Yeah.
just their job. So this weird idea that she needs to be close with reporters or that you're not even supposed to it's just really odd. I had a problem with that part of the statement.
Me too. I hated that. I hated that. I hated that
For
that
yeah,
exists
I felt
and
that she
that
had to say,
she
mhm.
felt that she even needed to say that.
Yeah, because
But
they weren't professional. She was
no,
very professional. And you know what?
Exactly.
I know
because
people said all kinds of things about her, but she was very professional in the
you
way
know
you were.
what? And you know what? Let's be honest. I'm not going to say anybody's name,
Mhm.
but I know that all of us here know who she was apologizing to. And I didn't see those people on Twitter coming to your defense.
I didn't either. I didn't
Yep.
either. All those people
Yep.
who like you, all those people who thought nicely of you, they didn't defend you.
They didn't say a fucking
And
They
we
word.
didn't
got the
say a
receipt.
word.
They got the receipt.
I didn't
And
see
if they
any of
felt,
those
and if
people
But
who were your
yeah,
fans.
and if
I
they
see
felt,
your tennis
and
reporter fans. I see all of them. I know who your reporter fans were. I didn't see a tirade, and I didn't see a tweet thread. I didn't see any
nothing.
of that.
Nothing.
and you know what's interesting about that? That's another thing that journalists do. These tennis journalists do. Whenever they're mad about something, they then dig up the dregs of Twitter and retweet those people and push those ideas
As
when they
if to
don't like
say,
a play.
this is what someone says.
Said exactly. The retweets are not my opinion. Then why
Yes.
the fuck are you retweeting it then?
I only read. Why retweet it?
Why retweet it?
So
So
let's move
mhm.
Go
let's
ahead.
move into a little something else here. So Lindsay Davenport, because this is everywhere, and now that Naomi has removed herself from the situation, the press is not going to allow that to happen. They're going to ask every player what they think about it. It's going to be a subject of conversation for probably the rest of the tournament, but at the very least the next few days
Well,
on all the TV coverage in every press conference room. It's going to be discussed. And so, Tennis Channel today, Lindsay Davenport was asked about it. Her response was quite interesting. She says, I was playing at a time where I was watching Jennifer Capriati go through some mental struggles. Everyone on tour knew that she was going through mental struggles, and everyone ignored it. No one offered her help. No one did anything about it. They just watched her slip and fall and spiral into this place of darkness. So that tells us, of course, we know as human beings that this isn't new, that people struggle with this type of thing all the time. But this sets a precedence that, historically, tennis ignores this.
oh well,
They do. They
tennis
do.
tennis
They
loves to
ignore.
create a problem and pass
They ignore
itself.
the rape too. They ignore rape. They ignore child abuse. Remember the
Exactly.
tennis coach that they
Exactly.
used to joke about the tennis coach who used to diddle his students.
Yeah.
I remember that was my first interaction on tennis Twitter was actually doing that whole thing around that coach who was responsible for raping a lot of girls. So
And tennis loves to, here's the thing, tennis loves to create a problem and pat itself about resolving a problem that they didn't even resolve. Because this whole, when we talk about Coco Gauff, like, oh my God, she's too young to play a full tournament. It ain't about age why Coco Gauff can't play full tournament, full tour.
Yeah.
It's because of child sex
the
abuse,
predator.
predator situation. But you don't talk about that.
I
It wasn't that it
don't
was
know
killing.
that.
Huh? Sorry?
I said I don't. I really don't think people know that. I don't
No, they don't really
think that
understand that about it.
realize that protection of girls' bodies, not in a sexual way, not to save them from working too hard too young.
Exactly, because hello, gymnastics. Nobody cares about
Exactly.
age there.
But
But you know what?
but it is
But
so
you're good
sad.
point.
I think it's I have to say Naomi Osaka because I know you listen to our podcast because this is the Roger Federer podcast, and of course we give the best opinions and views. But I have to say that what I really applaud Naomi for doing in this situation is to just first of all
So,
French Open. You don't need the French Open. You don't
never.
need any of these tournaments and yourself first because let me tell you something. Sports do not give a fuck about athletes. Organized sports, they don't. That whole gymnastic situation is a prime example. They don't care. They just want to jump up and down and write and put themselves first
Yep.
because you save yourself
You
always.
produce for them.
Always save yourself. No job is really that important because let me tell you something. You die, your job is gone. I read something on Twitter the other day. They said this woman didn't even have a funeral. They already put up a replacement. A coworker died that day,
I
and
know
they
the
put up
moment.
the vacancy notice that very same day. So they don't care.
So
Protect
you're the
yourself
only
first.
one. You're the only
Protect
one that has
yourself.
to protect yourself. And this is the thing that's so sad to me about all the other tennis players. But you know what? It's hard to be too disappointed by them because we've talked about this. They are independent athletes. They're
They don't
hustling.
study history.
I mean,
Remember
they
when
don't.
Monica Seles got stabbed? Chris Evert wrote in the newspaper, "Girl, you need to come out and work." Bitch, she got stabbed at work. She got fucking stabbed at work.
I mean, but these are the people who don't do the readings, right? Because this is the thing. You know, the
Hate
players
these
didn't
people
see
so
this
much. I
as
hate
a
them so
player
much.
protection and a player issue. They saw it as an individual issue about Naomi. And you know, lots of them have opinions about Naomi's stance because Naomi does take a Black Lives Matter stance, and we know not everybody loves every Black
I
life.
know that. And
So
she,
we know
and
that's
when
an
she
issue.
wants to win a tournament, she just snatches up from all. And look, and I'm just saying, look, Ashbadi, I'm really, I didn't like you because you're in Fila and all of that, but now I really have a reason. That I know, that people who don't like me because I don't like Ashbadi, and I didn't really dislike her, but I think you of all people, it couldn't have been you. It couldn't have been you. It shouldn't have been you to make that statement because you walked
What
away
was her
from this
statement?
sport.
Say her statement
Like
before
her stance was just like, like, oh, the press, we love the press,
we
press is
need the
friend,
press. Well,
the
she's
press.
just saying she's just doing the talking points. She did the WTA talking points. Every single time something controversial comes up, the WTA has talking points that all players kowtow to. They did it with Maria Sharapova's doping, and they did it here. There's very few players who will speak their mind, and I think it's actually really sad because their failure to understand the individual issue. And let's be honest, it's not even like her. It's not even just it's not just Ash Barty. Her Naomi Osaka's quote unquote best friend on tour also gave it similar.
Iga Swiatek,
Yes,
Caroline
she
Garcia.
also gave that. She also gave the Carolyn Garcia of tennis. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So I think at the end of the day, these women, they don't know what solidarity is. And you can see it,
I
not
thought we
just
got rid of that when Simona didn't show up. I thought, okay, we're
stop
gonna
it.
get some
But they don't
individuality of it.
know solidarity for each other. They don't see this issue as something beyond Osaka only. This is something about this is
I
something about the environment.
They didn't
And to
even
Janina's
say.
point, this is what Janina is saying. Janina raises the point from what is that we can all watch you. They will watch you sink, and you should have more player protection. And that was the thing that I thought was so compelling about Naomi's statement. Listen, she didn't have to go into the mental health drama. Guess what? We're in a pandemic. And
Thank
we're
you.
watching players suffer various forms of mental crises on court. And people have no compassion for players because you are there to perform for them so that we can forget about the pandemic. And so basically they're just like, show up, put a smile on your face and hit that damn ball. And
But here,
I'm
I
here to be
mean,
distracted.
and here's the thing, tennis. I know y'all telling yourself that the institution would outlast Naomi Osaka, but if it's one thing this Panini has taught us, we can make a rinky dink something some way and people will watch and pay for it. So these people can leave the tour and set up their own little something because guess what? The French Open has no real value. It doesn't have any real
Don't love
value.
that.
It doesn't, I mean, particularly the women. I mean, like, you might be going
I don't
on
know
to the
what you mean by
history.
the women. It definitely doesn't have any value for the men. It's only one dude winning it. So
Well, that's what I
You
mean.
know what? I want
I
to
mean,
add something to what Andreen just said, though, about women in solidarity. I think all of that is true. And I also think it matters. I think people are probably considering who they're willing to align themselves with.
oh, they
I
didn't want to
think
align themselves with Osaka at all.
oh
They
no,
think she's a
no
troublemaker.
fucking way.
I'm
She's
telling
a
you.
These
troublemaker. Yes.
these
She
girls
talks
look
too
at her.
much.
Yep.
But you see, listen
I
to me,
mean,
listen to
Vika,
me.
you're out there saying stuff, but you ain't saying nothing, girl.
Exactly.
Put a
Of all the
quote tweet
time.
up there. You ain't saying nothing. I
Exactly.
mean, the only person I saw in any solidarity with her was surprisingly was Venus. Was like, do you, honey? But that's the only
Because you know
thing.
Venus
Like
ain't gonna show up to that press conference tomorrow, and y'all they ain't charge that lady $15,000
Well,
because
and
solidarity, though. Some
I would be
solidarity.
does Roland Garros release their press transcripts? I'm not sure. I would love to see. Someone did say something to Serena, and her response was it was nice. I don't remember it, but I was surprised that she she seemed genuinely she seemed genuine. Period.
I will say this
Um,
though. I will say this. I
I
don't expect every player to come out in support of Naomi. I don't. I don't think they even have to. It's not even what I'm asking them to. I think what I'm asking them to have is some self awareness, even from their own self
Exactly,
interested
because this
position.
is an
yep.
issue that doesn't affect you. Then
Yes.
every day you want to show up to work and do
You want to
perform or
give
whatever the
yourself
case
an
may be.
out as
And
well.
I think
right,
well,
exactly.
it's important. It's important to um because I keep hearing them say, well, this is our job. Doing
And
press
here,
is part of our job.
But you
And I
but
get
that's
understand
not
that.
true.
job
But that's not
environment
true
working.
though.
Well,
It's
it kind
only
of
your
is
job
true.
if the press wants to talk to you, because there are tons of people like we know for a fact they show up to press conferences. Her catch showed up in Miami. There was
Nobody's
nobody
there.
there. Nobody there.
It's
But it
only
is
the
in the
job of the
rules.
top player. It is
I'm
only
not
it's
saying
in
I
the
understand.
rules.
It is
I get
in
it.
the
It's in the
rules.
rules, but it's really only the job of the top players. It's
But
their
here's the
job to
thing though.
push the sport.
It is in the job. It is in the rule of work that you need to come to work every day. But if you're sick or if you're not feeling it well,
You can
the
take a day
work
off
can't force you to show up to do perform. And she said she was not okay, and that should have been good
an
enough.
aspect of it, not
And
the actual even playing. Because you could still pay to see her. Because nobody's paying to see a press conference.
thank you. And y'all keep that shit on the lock and key anyway. Y'all don't even
Yeah.
release the transcript, so I don't even understand what was the issue. But for me, Naomi Osaka is still winning this fight because guess
Okay.
what? This shit has leaked out into the mass world, into the regular world now, and they ain't looking too kindly on you, tennis people. And people are gonna
I
get
was
these
going to
facts
bring
and
that up.
figures.
Yeah.
People are gonna get these facts and figures wrong. But at the end of the day, the central point of what they're going to get away with that y'all up in here trying to harangue a black woman, and that's never going to look cute.
Well, but you know what? No, what you just said,
A
that's
young black
important because
woman.
Osaka is big enough
She
in
is
the world
crossover.
that this story will be on every major morning show tomorrow,
And
regardless.
tennis will be showing
And
its ass
they are
again.
going
Exactly. And
they
she
are going
put
to
out
slaughter her
statement.
name.
She put
They're
out
going to get it
statement.
all wrong,
Exactly.
but they're going to talk about it.
Yep.
And you're right. Tennis is going to look like a fucking like the shit show that it is
Always
when it
does.
gets national, worldwide,
Attention.
outside of tennis media attention. It's always for something bad. And this is going to be another example of that. Because again, if it was,
Listen,
Petra,
tennis is, you know what? Let's be honest. Tennis is that uncle in the basement. It always is for them. Tennis is that uncle in the basement that you don't bring out because you know that tennis is going to say something wrong.
but
Tennis
this is
may,
why they're panicking though. This is why they're panicking
I don't
because
think so.
if
Not
Ash
with you
no,
with your
no,
whole
hold on,
chest.
Reels.
wait, let me hear.
Listen. This is if Osaka does something like this, if Serena does something like this, if Federer does something like this, if Rafa does something like this, it is going to garner worldwide media attention at every level. It's not just going to be on the sports shows.
Yep.
This will be on Good
The
Morning
very,
America tomorrow. You better believe it. They are going to talk about it. So that's why it's scary because, for tennis as an establishment, if Petra Kvitova did this, Good Morning
who,
America ain't covering it.
who,
They're gonna say, "Who is
what?
that?"
But here's the
It's gonna
thing
be
though.
like the time where Whoopi Goldberg said, "Who's
Dominic
Dominic
Thiem.
Team?" That's what it would be like,
And
So
look
when,
at Karma. Look at Karma. Karma said,
yeah,
"Here's your slam, boo. Go
exactly.
away."
And
so
I'm just saying.
meanwhile,
it
Dominic is probably suffering from some kind of mental fatigue.
Exactly. But you see, and let's be honest, let's talk about that.
Bianca
I'm not
Andrescu.
gonna go in that road, but did you see how people reacted to him? Did you
mhm.
see what the older tennis male players said about him? Because they are tragic when they cover the sport and deal with the emotional life of the athletes. They are horrific. They have no insight. It's like toxic masculinity all over again. Listening to Mats Wilander talk about Dominic Thiem, I mean, just the kinds of things that are being circulated about him. He's having a lull after a slam. It is the rare athlete that doesn't. The only ones that
Yeah,
didn't
this is
are the
common.
superstars. It's the only ones that didn't.
Actually, no, they all had a low. They all had a low. They all
Except for
did.
Venus. I felt like Venus just kept going. But I'm just saying, right? Like I'm just saying
She
like
is. Her
yes,
lull came
exactly.
later on, unfortunately. Well, her
Yeah,
lull
the
is
lull came
Serena.
later, but I'm just saying Venus, Serena,
Her
once
lull
they
was
got
Serena.
the top ones just kept going. Once they got that one under their belt, it just felt like, whoo, I've released it. Pressure's off,
Right.
go. Right? But that's the other thing is that we don't have commentators who can talk thoughtfully
about any of these topics.
They don't do the required reading though. Look
They
at who these
don't.
people are.
They're
Look at who these people are.
ex-players. They're ex-players, and they don't even
And
focus on the X's and
jealousies.
O's. They don't even focus on the X's and O's so that we can be grateful for them being there. I mean, how many times did we look at each other and say we thought that Chrissy was going to be great? She was such an excellent player, and it's rare that she focuses on X's and O's and such. You're like, wow, I can see her thought process when she was hitting those balls. I still don't understand how she won all those titles. I can't quite see it yet. She doesn't bring
Chris
that
is the drunk
analysis to the
auntie.
table.
Is a drunk auntie that you don't want to be talking at all.
Exactly. Again, and so this is what I mean in the sense that aside from Andy Roddick and this week John Wertheim, very few of these, and James Blake, very few of these players, ex-players, have the capacity to bring a thoughtfulness to the table that is required to cover tennis.
John used to
It
play
just
tennis?
doesn't happen. No, I just meant this week. John
Okay.
Wertheim was slightly thoughtful. But generally, they just can't handle providing context for all of the players. And it's really
And you know what?
shameful.
The ones that can, they don't give them
The
airtime.
bike. They don't give them
Lindsay
right.
Davenport could be great. She talks in that way. You may not always like what she has to
No,
say.
I generally like
But
them.
she
I generally
talks
like them.
in that way, just like, this is, look at the point construction. They
Yep.
probably should be doing this. You can tell that they set it up here and blah, blah, blah.
Chandra
The
does
actual
that as well.
sport, yes. Sometimes
Chandra,
Mary Jo
let me just-
Fernandez does.
Let me
You know,
give
but
you a little bit of Chandra. Let me just so Chandra, I get you, honey. You're the only one in the room. I know where you're working. You're the
You
only
need a
one in the
better
room.
outlet, girl. You
It was
need to shop
difficult.
around. You need
I
to
get
shop
it.
around.
I saw your little piece on Naomi Osaka. Let's just oof. We get it though. You're the only one there. You need to cash checks. You got family, bills to pay, all those kinds of things. But you didn't do the deep analysis here. You didn't hold them
not.
accountable. They should have been held accountable. You know there was a racialized and gendered element here. I didn't think you penetrated that enough.
And I just want to say that I'm sorry.
And you know what's the crazy thing that's going to happen to tennis, right?
What?
Naomi Osaka, like I said, doesn't make these missteps. She put out a statement, and it's
Gonna do
there in
some
black and
mental
white
health thing.
exactly what she meant. It's you people now with the fallout now that's going to end up looking foolish because you go back to, but that's not what she said though. She was very clear what she said. So your response shouldn't have
Had
been
I
anything
known,
like this.
how many times did you see after she withdrew people, supposed journalists who cover the sport, say, had I known it was a mental health issue, I would have not reacted initially.
She said it.
She said it. She said it from the get-go. You didn't listen. You just were being greedy, and you're like,
how dare this little millionaire tell me what to do? Listen to me, y'all
So-
broke. Listen to me. Go complain to the establishment. Naomi, anyone who's supposed to be signing your checks. Okay? Go speak to the paymasters. It's not Naomi Osaka. If y'all want to pass the contract, go talk to somebody about that. Stop making these players pay for this kind of shit. Hold them accountable for the things.
Well, I
Exactly.
think
Hold them accountable for the shit they're supposed to be held accountable for. Not this nonsense. Okay?
I think that they've made a huge mistake.
What is the mistake, and what do you think they should do about it, Janina?
in
As we
co-
wrap up.
So I think that the whole coming down on her so hard from all the majors in threatening to disqualify her is going, well, first of all, it already did backfire because she pulled out. So that was not their aim. Believe that, right? They wanted her to bow down at press conference, and she said, fuck you, I'm out. So, but I think that I think they picked the wrong bitch. This isn't going to go away.
They always.
This isn't going to go away. This should have been handled with compassion. They should have said, you know what? You laugh, but it's true. They should have said, you know what, Naomi? I hear you. You don't want to do the press conferences? Okay, fine. We have to fine you. Meanwhile, as you said, let's have a conversation afterward about how to make this better. That really should have been the response, and everybody could have moved on.
Yeah, that's what they should have done.
I don't think that they should have said, I'm sorry you're feeling this way. You're exempt from the pressers and we're not going to find you. I don't think that should have ever happened, but I think they should have just said, listen, take your moment. You've put us on notice. We are going to fine you, and we're going to address this at the end. I think that's what should have happened.
Yep. Yeah, it was real weird that they didn't do that. Whew, what a mess.
So, all right, enjoy Mexico.
I will enjoy Mexico. Do you
Yes,
want to
so
wrap
thank
up
you,
Reels?
folks.
I know Reels always has an extra long wrap up, so tell us what you want to say.
You're so lucky you can't see my face because I'm raining snow on top of you. Anyway, she's gonna go have some muy caliente,
I'm gonna have
delicious food
fabulous Mexican
dinner.
meal, and you all are gonna do wonderful things.
Yes.
And
So as always, we didn't have a draw show because I mean, why? Why should we do any deep analysis for this shit when French Open don't read shit? So we're not doing the work for French Open, right? That should have been the focus. When Naomi said, I'm not doing the press conferences, talk about the tennis people. But they decided we're not going to do that. So is there anything we really care about the French Open right about this time? Other than Naomi Nahi and Roger Federer?
Cut
I
it
know
out.
Serena stands care about Serena, but I
Serena
hope your
looked good
girls do
today,
well.
but that's all I'll
Okay.
say.
Okay.
All right.
Anyway, folks, I hope you
we'll be
enjoyed
here
this
to give you an
podcast.
actual.
Of course, it's gonna lead to wonderful discussions in the tweets and in all over the place, case and be. And for those who are gonna come, I know white people are gonna come in and be like, it's not about race, it's not about gender.
it's never about race. I don't know what kind of world they live in, but I would like to live there with you.
Me
Me
too.
too. And also the secret of it, you don't get a say. You just don't.
You have to
just
let
don't
us
get
tell you when it's about race. And I know that
exactly.
sounds really weird because it's hard to let other people tell you something. But this situation, we think it would have been racialized and gendered. We just think so. Because guess
Actually,
what?
I'm gonna go for that. I know so. And I know you don't know this. And you don't
Yeah.
get a say. And
Yeah.
you will be blocked.
I'm really
Okay.
sorry that they can't understand it.
I mean, I don't even understand why.
Because they hold that same opinion too, right?
Well,
They hold that,
inevitably
they would
race
hold that
and
same
gender is
opinion.
negative. But race and gender is not negative. It's just a lived experience for people. It doesn't have to be negative.
Amen.
It's probably because in your head it's negative, but it really isn't.
And I'm just going to
It's
tell you,
probably
why don't you go
negative
to your
because
boss tomorrow
you share some of those
morning?
views and you feel sad about it on the inside, but you don't know how to say it, and you're like, "Oh shit, that's me."
I'm
What?
just saying,
Listen,
before you say
And
that
then they
shit,
go,
go
"Oh,
to
I
your
don't want to talk
boss
about
tomorrow
that."
morning. Before you come to me and tell me this shit's not about race and gender and all that, and work issues, go to your boss tomorrow and tell him you're not coming into work tomorrow, and he tell you how dare you, and then see how that interaction goes.
I have to say that's my biggest pet peeve. I have never known so many people who are business owners on social media.
You know what I'm saying?
Every time something comes up that is about a worker, everyone is a business owner.
Always the broke bitches with the most energy. Like
Where's your solidarity with fellow workers?
exactly.
Yep.
How you got beef in this situation when you ain't got none in your fridge? I don't understand this shit. Stop this shit. We need worker solidarity, okay?
All right,
But
wrap
anyway,
it.
Andrine, enjoy yourself, enjoy your vacation safe. You know what I mean? Don't get COVID and don't be a colonizer in Mexico, okay?
We'll try. You know what? In order for me to return to the United States, I had to take a COVID test, so it came out negative. So for at
Good.
least the last couple days that I could have gotten it's not showing up on my test. I guess I'm
Okay,
good.
so Johnson is doing its job and you're
It's
still
doing
here
its
with
job
us.
as best as it can. I will
Okay.
talk to you all later. I'm looking forward to us doing our mid wrap up show and hoping to get home and catch a bit of tennis. So looking forward to it.
Alrighty.
So
And
much.
Roger Federer still be around for us to watch it. To watch
Listen, I'm
him.
only here for week one, Federer, and the ladies are just going to take me through. I'm also here for the Coco doubles with Venus. So we have
my
much
God.
to
Yes,
talk
Lord.
about.
That was what we're looking for. Venus don't fuck up Coco, don't fuck up Coco Venus.
We're going to talk to her about it later. So
And Venus, don't play me. Hey, that's my girl.
All
Okay?
right.
That's too sweet. Enjoy yourself, ladies.